Hello, and welcome to the second in a series of conversations that we're having with leading figures of sport, entertainment, and events and venue management from around the globe. Today, we're very privileged and honoured to have Alwaleed Alkeaid join us to tell us about Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 project, particularly in relation to the sports scene in the kingdom. Alwaleed is a highly influential and respected voice in Saudi sports and is the founder of the Saudi Sports Professional Network. Is also involved in a huge number of projects and initiatives, as I'm sure he will tell us about in a second. So, Alwaleed, thanks so much for joining us today. Could you please just start by letting us know a bit more about your background, your career to date, and what you're working on right now?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Gary, for having me. My name is Alwaleed Alkeaid. Around 17 years ago, I was into online gaming. I wasn't into sports at all. And how I did the shift is in 1 year, I decided to change my life from playing online games and being a couch potato to doing the toughest race in the world, which is the Ironman triathlon, full in less than a year with no background experience in exercise, physical activity, and so on. After I did that, I finished and I crossed the line to become the first Saudi ever to finish the full Ironman triathlon, which is 3.9 kilometer swimming, 180 kilometer biking, then you run 42.2 kilometer, all under 17 hours with no experience. That was my toughest challenge till today. And then that made the switch from computer science to doing sports science and continuing into sports management and so on. I started as a fitness, strength and conditioning coach, and then I had my own gyms and training people and doing corporate wellness for organization in the country. Then I got into sports as into management, like federation clubs, working with clubs and so on. And I worked with many of them. I worked with the Ministry of Sports, Math Academy, Saudi Gymnastic Federation, Saudi Boxing Federation, Saudi Hot Air Balloon Federation, yoga, and many others. So I'm a what they call I'm a former CEO of the Saudi Boxing Federation, vice chairman of the Saudi Gymnastic Federation, and currently running my own business doing recruitment and helping professional, local, and experts to work in the country.
Wow, so you sounds like you're a busy man.
Yes.
And I've done a kind of Olympic triathlon before, but Ironman is just another level. I mean, just the level of training you need to do is just something else. So, hats off to you. That's pretty impressive, especially the first Saudi to do it as well. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I went to trying different ultra marathon, fitness modeling, and I got into the whole uh, pushing my limit, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, that's great. So, thanks for the intro. That's really good. Good background. So let's get straight into it. So I spent some time in the Middle East. I spent some time living in the UAE, and but unfortunately, I never really got over to Saudi. But I always was fascinated by what's going on in Saudi, the sheer scale of the ambition and the changes that have taken place over the last decade. So can you just start by just explaining a bit more about the Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 initiative and what it aims to achieve for the kingdom?
Sure. So the whole goal of Vision 2030 is a roadmap or a playbook that helps us diversify our economy from an oil dependent into a diversified economy, and as well improve the quality of life, thriving nation, and take us from just being a consumer into being a maker and creator. So that was the goal, and it was announced in 2016. And since then, a lot of things happened. You see changes everywhere. You see construction everywhere. You see building. You see us grow in every sector, from mining to construction to manufacturing to medicine, in every sector basically. So the whole goal is to raise the country and increase our revenue from non-oil,
Okay,
basically.
great.
That was the goal of it.
And
And in regards to sports, so one of the main thing our government is focusing on is sports. We love sports, as you can see.
yeah,
We are a nation of young people. Around 70% are under the age of 35 years old. And a lot of them are into football and other sports as well. So that was one of the main focus that we focused on from the vision. If you're talking about targets that we are targeting by 2030 or in the next few years from the sports sector, one of them is to expand our sports contribution into non-oil GDP up to 5%, from 3 to 5%. It was less than 0.6% since Vision announced, and now it's at 2 point something percent. Expand working opportunity in the sports sector by 100,000 jobs created from venues, academies, clubs, and so on. Achieve physical activity up to 40% for the population above the 5 years old. Rank in the top 5 medals wins at the 2030-2034 Asian Games, and hopefully rank in the 25 for medal wins in 2032 Olympics and beyond. So basically, the goal is to increase increase the private sector contribution to 30%. So it's heavily dependent on the government currently, but the goal from the vision is to push that from government support to a private support. That's where investor comes in, either foreign investor or local investor, by building academies, venues, sports tech, and so on uh, to help achieve all these goals.
that's great. And yeah, so pretty ambitious, pretty ambitious goals there and objectives.
Yes.
What are the changes you've seen kind of in the last, I guess, last decade in terms of society and culture since the Vision 2030 has been announced?
Well, you can see a lot of cultural change, and I mean, a lot of change that happened. Since then, we hosted over 100 international events, and we are hosting an annual occurring events like the Formula One, Formula E, Dakar, WWE, boxing matches, BFL, Professional Fighting League, the UFC, and other international games. We hosted and we created the Saudi Games, which is the mini Olympics for local and expats living in the country here, and with prices that reach up to 1 million riyal if you win in your categories. The goal was to push individuals, locals, into sports, different sport, not just football, but all the different sports. And we have seen big change and a lot of increases of people being active these days. So one of the goals, for example, that we had in our Vision 2030 is to increase from 13% of people, of active people, all the way to 40%. And we have surpassed that. We now at almost 50%. So we achieved that goals from people being active. We created women leagues. Women are into every sports now. Youth is back into the school and university system. Now you get a scholarship if you are a good athlete in the university. That wasn't here before. Uh, so there's a lot of changes that is happening from people actually participating all the way to it's becoming in every kind of every center.
Sure. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, obviously, we've seen all of the showpiece events, like the FIFA Club World Cup, Formula One, the Live Golf, the boxing events, the
Yeah.
UFC. It's all those kind of big international sports, which are a diverse range of sports, which is great. How is kind of the government? How are they kind of promoting grassroots, and how are they trying to get the kind of local population into sports? Because obviously professionally, you can see the benefit, but from a grassroots perspective, what kind of initiatives are in place to help with that?
So one of the things that the government has created is the Math Sports Academy. Basically, it's an elite training academy that identify talents from across the region, from across the country, and all the different region through scouting competitions or doing days where they do talent identifications and taking the top and work with them, school them, educate them, and all of that, all the way to uh, to make them professionals. So
Okay.
that is one of the initiatives that they have created. Second, academies, private academies across the country has increased massively. I believe we have over 1,000 academies now. Uh, so you can see it everywhere and all the different regions, big cities, small cities, uh, even families now. Families believe in sports for their children. Before, they wanted them to focus only in education, as everywhere else around the world. Parents want the best for their children, so
Yep.
they think that sports uh, will uh, will will not let them focus on their education. And but now we're seeing big changes, big shifts in the mindset. People wanting to do sports because they see the benefits for their kids in regards to their health, wellness, social, and overall quality, even in terms of their education. The science back that if kids participate in physical activity and sports, they will do much more better in school in terms of higher grades and so on, and even higher jobs in the future. So we're seeing a lot of changes in regards to the grassroots. School has introduced school leagues in order to identify talents, and they take them into all these international com on and all the different sports. So now we are seeing even before there wasn't much focus in developing what do you call it, a sports center in schools or private schools. Now we are seeing schools compete to say, listen, we have a sports center that your kids can enter to, can play, can participate in all these sports activities. So that's kind of like a benefits to add to the parents to get them to enroll their kids in these different private schools. So there is a lot of changes that has happened since then.
Yeah, that's great. Really good. And in terms of as well as kind of the grassroots and the kind of events themselves, obviously there's been a lot of infrastructure development and investment over the last few years. So places like King Abdullah Sports City, the Neom Sports District. How do these kind of projects and the world-class stadiums and arenas and facilities that are being built, how do they contribute to the 2030 vision? What's the kind of grand plan in that regard?
Well, I mean, if you want to grow the sector, you need to build the infrastructure. If you want to bring the investor, you need to show them that we have invested in the country infrastructure, so you can come and either rent, use, and other things that you can do. Basically, if you look at the timeline of the mega events that we're gonna host, from the Asian Cup in 2027 and the Pan Arab Games in 2027, all the way to 2034, where we won the World Cup 2034 hosting. We started revamping our current stadiums that we built a while ago. So most of our stadium was built uh, I think in the 70s, 80s, 90s era. So it was a while back. And since then, we only built around 3 or 4 stadium, I believe. But now we are revamping most of these stadiums. And as well, we are building 12 new stadiums in Abha, Neom, Jeddah, Riyadh, East Side, Dammam, and we are building a world-class infrastructure. The biggest stadium will have around 92,000 seats, which is the King Salman Park Stadium. And the rest of them will have a minimum of 40 to 48,000 seats to accommodate World Cup 2034. Uh, if we built the stadium, what's then, right? I mean, if you're not going to use it, it will go bad. The main goal after building the infrastructure is to make it sustainable, is to host events, host sports events throughout the year, use it for competitions and so on, and use it for multi-purpose, not just sports, but entertainment, cultural, and others as well. So that's the whole goal, is to build infrastructure so anybody can use it later on, if it is the federation that is currently in or the clubs that we have, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really critical, and something that we certainly learned from when we hosted the Olympics, which we thought was a massive project at the time, but it's probably one of 100 projects that you guys are building at the moment. But we
Correct.
kind of the legacy part of it was really important, and building the Olympic Stadium and the infrastructure around it completely transformed an area of East London that was just a derelict, industrial land, and
Yes.
now that's a kind of West Ham United Football Club are in that stadium. There's kind of residential developments all around that. So that whole area has been completely transformed. So I think, yeah, legacy is critical.
Yeah.
In terms of, you mentioned how the local communities and the local population are kind of getting more involved in sports. What's being done, and how engaged are kind of the younger Saudis, especially women and girls, and how
Yeah.
kind of they being encouraged to take more part in sports?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, back to your point of leaving a legacy, it's one of the most important thing that you need to think of when hosting any major events, is what is the legacy that we are leaving. Okay, we hosted the event, we hosted everybody from around the world. What is next? Are we going to use it? Are we going to leave it as a legacy? And one of the main goals is to build a whole community around it. So after, as you mentioned, after they built all the venues for the Olympics and so on, after that, it became a residential area, and people start using these stadiums. They open them for public, for the training center and so on. So that is part of the things that we are doing as well, or we are planning to do. Uh, in regards to, sorry, your question
It's about
was.
women and girls and how they're going to get more involved in sports participation.
Yes. So women and girls, since the vision has been announced, we are seeing massive increase in women and girls participating in sports, in the different sports. Women now has professional league in football and other sports. And in the Saudi games, there is in each sport there is a woman category, so they can participate in and win medals and compete against each other. We are seeing increase in sports as well in school. So that wasn't there before. If you look at 20, 30 years back then, we didn't have physical education classes in girls' school, and now we do. Gyms, female gyms, we have seen a massive increase in female gyms. I think we have over 1,000 gyms so far now since it was announced. Pre 2017, we didn't have a license for a female gym. So there is a lot of massive change that we are seeing. We are increasing. I think we have over 30,000 females participating in the different sports. And as well, beside the gym box, the academies, and other areas, we are seeing them doing paddle, playing golf, and doing all these different sports. So it's not just one sports, it's all the other sports. And we are
Yeah, I
seeing
think
some champions as well. We are seeing women participating in the rallies, PFL. We have a couple of women's boxing as well, and all these different sports.
yeah, I think that's really interesting how diverse the range of sports out in Saudi is now. Because I think,
Correct.
it's easy to kind of assume it's just a bit of golf and football and boxing, but actually, if you look at what's going on, it's really kind of a diverse range, which is great. And it's great to see that the youth and the girls are getting involved. And I guess, the change of the pace of change has been rapid over the last kind of
Yes.
decade or so. And I guess,
Yes.
it's generally been positive, from what you're saying. The Saudis are kind of taking it in their stride and kind of really enjoying the change. What are the kind of the biggest challenges that you see currently and maybe into the future? Obviously, it's only been really 10 years, or not even that. It's probably been more like, 8 years since the
Yeah.
Vision 2030 was announced.
Yeah.
And back then you probably had a lot of time before the 2030 deadline. What are the
Yes.
kind of challenges now? You've only really got, 4 or 5 years left.
Yeah.
Do you think the objectives will be achieved by 2030?
Well, some of the objectives is gonna be achieved. So the goals of any vision is to create a KPIs, and you do your best in order to achieve those KPIs. But sometimes it happens that you don't achieve those KPIs. That doesn't mean that you have failed, but it's an uh, ambitious goal that you want to achieve. So you put it there and you let you let it become your vision. So you go and target it and run after it. Some of the challenges that we are facing is we don't have enough qualified coaches. Uh, Again, it wasn't one of the goal, or back in the days, it wasn't, what do you call it, a job opportunity for any individual to work in the sports sector because there wasn't a much sector in it. But now we are, one of the challenges is to have enough qualified coaches, males and females, in every different kind of sports. So if we look at what do we have now, we have around 97 federation, committee, and league in the country, and you're talking about massive sports. So every kind of sports that you can imagine, even hockey and winter sports, we have a federation for that. And then you look at, do we have a qualified coaches? Currently, we don't. Do we have enough participants in that sport? Currently, we don't. In order to create, what do you call it? To find the right talent, you need to have enough participant in that kind of sports in order to start identifying those talents. So if you don't have the numbers of people participating in these different kind of sports, you don't have enough talents that you can choose from in order to win medals, correct? So we don't have yet, we are just getting started. But I imagine by the next generation, we'll have enough people in every kind of sports participating, and finding those talents. And qualified coaches, we are currently facing those challenges by developing pathways and coaching certification from the ministry. And the private sector now is allowed to come and do these courses, workshops. So this is one of the opportunities for investors to come in and invest in training center to educate coaches, if it is personal trainer, fitness instructor, or even football and other kind of sports. This is one of them. The second one is I would believe, of course, the climate. We have a hot climate, so the summer is a no-go. You don't do any. Well, you do, but you do it in the evening. But hopefully, in the future, we'll have technology that help us cool down the outdoor area to make it able to do all these different kind of sports. So these are could be some of the challenges that we face, and having enough private sector comes in, believe in the sector and investing in the sector, either by
Yeah, I mean,
building.
makes perfect sense, and I guess it's just trying to catch up, isn't it? Because obviously you're running at 100 miles an hour, and it's just having all the kind of infrastructure in place and the personnel in place to be able to deliver it is the key thing.
Correct. I mean, other countries had 60, 70, 80 years, 100 years
Yeah.
to build everything. We have less than from 2016 all the way to 2013, less than 15 years. So it's like you are racing against the lights.
Yes, indeed. And when it comes to kind of the 2030 vision, so in the lead up to 2030 and then
Yeah,
beyond,
correct.
obviously a lot's been achieved already. You're already
Yes.
having an impact on the kind of global sports industry. How do you think things will evolve over the next 10 years in Saudi, and what impact you think the country will have on the sports scene going forward?
Well, I think moving forward, one of the things that we will have is Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, will be one of the capitals of sports in the whole world. It's not gonna look from the spectator seats anymore, but it will create their own version and own leagues and so on. We will have all these ready stadium, world class ready stadium that they will have their training center, they will have everything in there so we can utilize for the different kind of sports. We will have hopefully achieve our goals and objective of 3 to 5% of GDP from the sports sector from non-oil. And I think we will go. We are currently at 23 billion or around 6 billion US dollar, and the goal to achieve 83 billion US dollar by 2030 in terms of uh, revenue from the sports sector. And we will see massive increase in people participating in the different sports. So I think now we have over 100,000 athletes. Well, I believe we will multiply that by million. So it's not going to be in the 100,000, it will be in the millions. And as well increase and from the private sector in regards to fitness chains, gym box, sports, athletic centers, and so on. So it's kind of like if you imagine it, you are coming to an emerging market. You are building everything from the scratch. The opportunity is massive, and people are looking for new experience. So this is the part where investor can look at all these opportunity and start saying, "Hey, I should be one of those that comes from the beginning, not at the end, in order to utilize and capitalize on that." So I imagine investors coming from a lot of countries, investing in the country, infrastructure, and academy, sports, tech, sports centers, and so on. And what else?
That's great.
Yeah, I
I mean,
think
I think, yeah, I
that's
mean, everyone I speak to is wanting to kind of invest in Saudi in one way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of potential to see what happens in the future. And what about just finally, what about yourself? What are your ambitions for the next few years? Obviously, being very much involved in the sports scene in Saudi, but where do you want to kind of take your own career?
well, for me, I want to help the nation. I want to develop sports, help federation, clubs, local and international federation as well. The goal is for me is to develop sports into a world-class level by helping all these organizations find a sustainable way and create a strategy that can last, not just a quick wins, but more like sustainable revenue sources, sustainable usage, sustainable participants, and so on. So yeah, I think my goal is be that advisor that helps bridge the gap between all these different stakeholders, if it is the government, the private sector, the investors, and so on. From my side, building my own agency and building my own companies in the sports. I believe, and I will always continue to believe that, and I tell everybody, this is the right time to invest in the country. And that's why I'm invested in heavily. And I try to promote it as much possible through my blogs, website, LinkedIn, and other social media, is to tell everybody, listen, the opportunity is there. We are currently just an emerging market with a young population. We are increasing in populations. And once we have all these giga mega projects done, you will have a lot of opportunities. So start now, build now, and you will get your return in the next few years. You'll just have to be a bit patient. So I'm hoping to do that and try to help as much possible as I can be.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, good advice there. And yeah, absolutely. If you haven't already followed Alwaleed on LinkedIn and other social channels, please do, because he does post a lot and it's really interesting content. But thanks so much. That's all my questions answered. So thanks, Alwaleed, for all your time. Really appreciate you taking the time out to speak to us. Really interesting insight to what's happening in Saudi right now and in the future as well. So so thanks for being part of the discussion. I think it's fair to say that we're all keeping a pretty keen eye on Vision 2030 and what's happening in Saudi, all the developments, all the infrastructure, all the projects, with a mix of real kind of excitement and fascination. I certainly am fascinated myself. And we wish you all the best of luck in your endeavours going forward, and we'll keep in touch, I'm sure. But we hope you found this episode useful, and please do keep an eye out for future editions. We'll post all of our content on social media, particularly on LinkedIn, but feel free to follow us there, or also subscribe to our YouTube channel. But if you want to find out more about Venue Pro, please visit venuepro.co or search for us on Google. But thanks again, and we'll see you soon.